Carl here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and it's album review time. Exciting stuff to talk about here because it's one of my favourite bands. My favourite bands on records, one of my favourite bands live these days, a band that kind of came out of nowhere a few years ago and have blown me away ever since. It is, of course, Pupil Slicer. You've seen the title, of course. And I was going into this album with a little bit of trepidation based off the first single, the actual title track, Blossom, which I really wasn't sure about. I was intrigued by the experimentation, but I wasn't too sure if I was going to be on board with this new direction. Thankfully, single that followed afterwards, and hearing this album in full, I can happily confirm this is another absolute banger. Because we are looking at a more mature, more considered version of Pupil Slicer. On June 2nd, 2023, this sophomore album, Blossom, it is out via Prosthetic Records. Now, what's quite interesting is this is a concept album, a hard science fiction, cosmic horror rock opera concept album with central themes of abject despair, reincarnation, and a fascination of hell. It's a big moment for Pupil Slicer, having obviously been catapulted into the stratosphere with the debut album Mirrors, a record that, as I already said, I loved, we loved, but so did many, many other people. And of course, now it's time for the follow-up. Difficult task. And truth be told, I think they probably could have gotten away with doing Mirrors Part 2. You know, just that basically, and people would have been more than happy. Yeah, that is so far from what they've chosen to do. As already said, Blossom is a concept album, and it does find Pupil Slicer in a very experimental mood. Experimentation that helps make the concept feel more real overall, while also allowing the group to test themselves and to test us, the listener base. Yet, beyond the no false illusions, this album is still an outrageous assault of abrasive heaviness. It's all still there, evident from the miasma of noise that pours from a momentary actuality, with layers of melody, touches of clean singing and crushing technicality. It's a blistering start to the album, especially when it's paired with the poignant intro of Glaring Dark of Night. The reality-bending, destructive beauty and belligerent intensity of this story has officially begun. Departure and Solitude showcases even more of Pupil Slicer's bold experimentation as it combines chaotic and commanded progression with thrashy speed and enigmatic electronic touches. Yet it all seems quite relaxed when compared to the madness that follows with Creating the Devil in Our Image, a track that could be summed up as one of the most mind-bending things Pupil Slicer have ever put out there. Its mysterious melody, the manic heaviness, the trippy shifts and ethereal tones. It is utterly insane, but it's undeniably brilliant. I was quite amazed by this track in particular. You might be thinking here, can it possibly get any better? Well, the song at creation's end certainly proves that Pupil Slicer aren't holding back here. It's a track that is exactly 8 minutes long and can be summed up as a brash, bright and brilliant epic that is every bit the Pupil Slicer we all know and love, but a completely different beast altogether. Hell, it even delves into shoegaze territories at times. That it continues to make the concept so alive in the mind is testament to the writing of this band. Likewise, the structure and how the album flows. While many of these tracks can be enjoyed in isolation, the full immersive experience is truly what makes this record a thing of beauty. No Temple is a bit more of a Pupil Slicer staple, for want of a better word, as it is feral and furious as they come. The band showcasing a merciless mathcore hit that is hilariously accessible to a degree while being utterly extreme in almost every aspect. It is the Pupil Slicer way, abrasive and harsh, but beyond lovable. Which continues in the terminal lucidity and language of the stars, the former beginning with otherworldly ambience, introducing computerized effects before bursting through the membrane of peace with a jarringly brutal encapsulation of technical heaviness. The effects are prevalent throughout, making for one of the album's most uncomfortable sounding songs, whereas the latter features dramatic melodies and disconcerting voices that are whispering in your ear. The evolving sound does little to alleviate the sense of bewilderment that this track creates. There is no stopping now, as Pupil Slicer hit a truly atmospheric high with the powerful melodic charge of dim morning light. This might very well be the most beautiful song this band has ever written, before the title track arrives to finally make sense as part of the bigger picture. As I said at the start, when first released as a single, it caused a bit of confusion, not just with me but other listeners. Seemingly no one prepared for this new direction. But as part of this album's story, it is actually really good. It's pretty wonderful, and it is a great finale. It fits so much better in context of the album, rather than as a standalone single, and the first single released from this album at the time. This is an evolution. What an evolution. What a story being told. What an eclectic and varied mix of ideas. What creativity. What a band. Pupil Slicer have crafted something truly special here. The more time I think you spend in the company with Blossom, the more you'll be impressed by it. I think this needs several listens to really fully appreciate it, but I think on one listen you can take so much from it, particularly the wealth of ideas coming from this band. It was such a hard task to follow up Mirrors, and it's fascinating that not only have they done that, and I think bettered that album, but they've done it in an evolved way. This isn't Mirrors Part 2, even though there are elements that are clearly Pupil Slicer through and through. It's going to likely cause a fair bit of debate amongst fans, I think. There will be people who just can't get on board with a myriad of ideas here, and the structural changes and the clean singing here and there, and some of the more electronic effects and elements like that, I think could put some people off. But I feel like not only will the majority of Pupil Slicer fans love this, it's going to bring in a lot of other fans who maybe were put off more by the extreme end of Pupil Slicer, even though that still exists here. I can't stress that enough. It's going to be fascinating to hear what people think. I love it. It is a brilliant album, a 10 out of 10 album as far as I'm concerned, and yeah, I can't wait to hear what people think. June 2nd, Prosthetic Records. That is when it is out, and that is who it is out via. You got any thoughts on it? You know what to do. Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?